public channel. So it'll be on the Chamber of Commerce's YouTube page.
Okay.
Okay. And I just would like to take a minute to thank the Community Forest Corporation for providing this update. They're going to give us a little bit of information on their activities and status over the past year. If you have any questions, I would ask you to not unmute, but to put them in the chat room. It'll just be easier to manage, and because we are expecting quite a few people, want to keep background noise to a minimum. And now we'll turn the virtual floor over to Lawrence Forsberg on behalf of the Community Forest Partnership.
Thank you very much, Bev. We really appreciate you offering to host this presentation for this afternoon. For those that don't know me, my name is Lawrence Forsberg. I am nominated director for the Northern Rockies, and I am also the chair chair for the board. There's other directors there that they can jump in and introduce themselves. Go ahead, Catherine. Is she online there?
Hi there, Catherine Wolfman, co-chair for the Fort Nelson Community Corp.
Terry Cavalier, an appointed director by FNFN.
Bruce Deinsit, alternate director for Fort Nelson, Northern Rockies.
And Jeff Beal here with director for Northern Rockies Regional Municipality.
Thank you. I would also like to, at this time, thank past director Jim Snetzinger for his contribution to the board. He brought a lot of value to the board, and to me personally, he is a very skilled and clever chap. So I wanted to thank him personally for that. Okay, Bev, we'll get into the presentation now. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm assuming everybody's seeing that on their screen?
Yep.
You want the first? There we go.
Okay, so there's the contents that we're going to be talking about today. There's a number of them. Next slide, Bev. Okay, so when we talk about the CFA background, you know, the partnership was formed officially on July 2019. Really, this is, we believe that the community forest will attract investment that will create diversification on a wide, a varying range of products. As everyone knows, the declining timber supply in the rest of the province, Fort Nelson is looking pretty good with their robust timber supply. I think what the community forest needs is good proponents up here that translates into benefits to both communities. So, okay, Bev, next slide, please. There's the CFA vision. Really, it's about planning with imagination and direction for the future at the end of the day. The board has a clear sense of purpose. We have a larger picture of our business going forward. Fort Nelson, you know, really, if you look at Fort Nelson, it is in stress. The community forest, I think, has a way of help support the local economies and provide long-term employment opportunities. So, okay, Bev, next slide. So there's the directors. I think we got that one. Go ahead. So ours is an area-based tenure. We've got 4 areas, A, B, C, and D. It covers something like almost 185,000 hectares. It's the largest in the province of BC, and we have a tenure of 217,000 cubic meters of fiber, both conifers and deciduous. Bev, next slide, please. So there it is there. That's how it's broken down. Conifers 118,000, deciduous 99. And then we also have a sales volume reservations with BCTS, and that's because of our boundaries overlap. So, okay. So here's some of the achievements that we've done in 2021. We've developed an operating budget for 2020, and it's been audited. In May of 2012, we signed on to a joint forestry plan, an FSP with CAN4, now it's Peak, and the BCTS. So we've got that. So that's in place. We did a lot of extensive work on developing a fiber management strategy for the first year of operation. Our intention is to harvest 40,000 cubic meters of conifer, on a winter harvesting program for for this year and going into 2022 on our areas. So that's the goal for this year. And we've also entered into a woodland service agreement with Peak for the winter harvesting program. So we've also entertained that, and that was signed on November the 3rd, 2021. Okay, Bev. So what have we done here? Well, we've submitted a cutting permit, and it's been accepted by the district. It's waiting for, that was done on October the 18th. We're waiting for approval. The Minister of Forest has shot that off to Fort Nelson First Nations for engagement. And we are in the process of going through and trying to define the cutting blocks, the areas, and so we're in that process there. We've got boots on the ground, and we're doing that as we speak. Okay, next slide, Bev. There's the area. We've selected Area B. That's not the whole area that we're going to, in that area, this is an overview map showing Area B. And within there, we will have specific cutting blocks that we have selected for low risk, high candidate blocks. Okay, Bev. Okay, so here's the objectives for the harvesting program, to provide some opportunity for local service providers for some of the harvesting activities that we've got planned. We're making available conifer saw logs for local consumption here, and that's the priority, 10,000 cubic meters. And then the additional 30,000 cubic meters is for non-local producers. And then the last bullet there is to generate some cash for CF Corp. Okay. Next slide, Bev, please. The financial, there's not much for financial. We're showing some things that we continue to struggle with the pandemic, and that has caused major problems throughout all sectors of the industry globally. We continue our efforts on focusing on attracting manufacturers locally. We've had an audit for year end. We'll be going through and working on our budget for 2022. So there's basically no financing here. We've not sold a log, so there was no income. Go ahead, Bill. So what's the next steps? So we identify the local demand opportunities for the CF fiber. Continue to work with Peak to ensure that we have a good harvesting program is successful. We need to look at long-term fiber and long-term supply agreements for the locals. We need to start actively looking for and look at the management structure for CF Corp. And then, of course, obviously, we're always going to be looking for how can we attract proponents to utilize the deciduous off our tenure. That's going to be the most challenging for us. And then we will be also working on 2022 and 2023 harvesting for next year. Okay, next slide, Bev. So there it is. It's not much of there's not a lot of detail in there. But them are the highlighted or high level things we wanted to talk about. And I'm sure that there is some questions from our listeners. So we'll try to work through them, and we'll try to answer the best we can. So questions, I guess, Bev.
Okay, so far we don't have anything in the chat for questions, but I would like to thank Kathy Dickey for putting the acknowledgement up. I do appreciate that, Kathy, and I would like to echo that and just acknowledge that we are on Treaty 8 territory, and that we honor and acknowledge all of the peoples who have lived, traveled, and gathered on these lands. And my apologies again. If we have questions, throwing them in the chat would be great. Or here we go with our first one. I'm going to give this about just a couple more minutes on the screen. So if anybody wants to take down the information that Lawrence has provided, and then I'll take that off so that we have the gallery view. So who from Fort Nelson First Nation has indicated that the FNFN Council claims to have approval from the Dene and Treaty 8 beneficiaries of Fort Nelson? Who wants to take that?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that. So I guess it's clear to make the distinction that the CF Corp is an at-arms operation of FNFN. So that's why there's directors from NRRM and FNFN both at the table. So it came out of discussions quite a few years ago, potentially, looking at restarting the forestry industry and ensuring that FNFN's values are taken into consideration this time around.
Any other questions? Mayor Foster? No?
I can speak just in general terms, Bev, for a minute, if I will. So I just want to talk a little bit about this fiber management strategy that we developed here for Fort Nelson and for the community forest. Our view is that, and I'll use this phrase, is that we wanted to walk before we can run. We haven't had any substantial logging activity done in 13 years, I guess, since the closures of both Takima and Polar Board. And it's been dormant. And so it's very difficult to, and sometimes struggling to try to get things going with something being absent for a very long time. Not to mention, we're all 12 years or 13 years older, and we're all getting, I'm getting older, so everybody else must be doing the same thing. So, a lot of people have gone and moved away. What we wanted to do was we picked a good number, a good test for the market. We put some fiber and sticks on the ground for local consumption, and some outside the TSA, and this will flesh out, and because there's gonna be stumbles, and we'll pick ourselves up again, and away we go, and we'll work through it, and we'll get through it, and then we'll be wiser for next year. So that was the whole thinking. We walk before we run, figure out how many contractors we have locally, what it would take. Could you imagine if someone came today and said, well, we're gonna harvest a million cubic meters? We don't have the capacity. We don't have the manning. So it is to try to build and look at the capacity also. So I think these are very good times. We've been working with the community forest here now for a little bit, trying to plan and organize and get it so that it's a workable thing for the community, for both communities. It's important that this thing goes well. We, all of us directors that are there, we have a passion for what we're doing, and we're determined to make this community forest a workable thing. It's the biggest in the province, and it's there for us to utilize and to help stimulate the economies for both communities. So there it is. This is going to be almost the quietest thing I've ever heard. Is there any more questions?
It's got to be another one.
Well,
I was just wondering, I know some people won't be interested in typing out questions. So after we deal with Allison's, if maybe people could just use the raise the function if they're more comfortable just verbally asking.
You bet. And I was just going to say exactly the same thing, that I think we can manage the people that have the number of people that we have.
I think there was a question that came up there that's in the
There
chat.
is. So Bill C-15 has been passed, that now Canada's laws must respect the United Nations declarations on the rights of Indigenous people, and FNFN does not have any agreement from their members to dispose of the timber that is integral to the rights protected by Treaty 8 from disposal. So how does this organization reconcile these plans with the new laws that apply to resource extraction?
Yeah, so I can speak to that. So a main component of back in the day when obviously wanting to do, forestry from a different approach than was done before in the Fort Nelson area. A lot of the values have been worked in through from what we've learned from community members talking about some issues and shortfallings from FERPA, and looking at what members thought would be better setbacks, better guidelines, how we wanted to see forestry managed this time around. So we've developed some working documents. One's called the Land Management Framework, which is referenced quite a bit in our CF vision and guiding principles. And that document is intended to build in that respect and those values that FNFN members have brought forward to the nation over the years. I think also, given, obviously new policy, things have changed since the last time that forestry was here. Things have got better. And I think also the recognition and just ensuring that things are done better for the community, by the community.
Okay, and then we have one from Kathy. How quickly will the people and companies be able to get ready to take advantage of opportunities?
Okay, so I can answer this here. So we've engaged Peak to provide the necessary services for planning and oversight of the harvesting program. I know that they're using Giaterra, who is a locally company that to do the on the cut block and help us on that the consulting part of that. I have spoke to both Peak and to Giaterra, and they are actively seeking out contractors within the community now. Some of them are actually working because some of them may, in fact, want to do some harvesting and have the harvesting abilities to get involved. And they're obviously whoever has trucks and whatever else can haul logs. So that is actually, they are engaged now. So.
Okay, I'm just going to move over. See, Mayor Foster has his hand up.
Is he muted?
Yeah, I was, but I'm not now. So thank you, Ms. Vandersteen, for that. First of all, I really want to thank the board members of the Community Forest, Mr. Forsberg, Ms. Wolfenstein, Mr. Cavalier, and Mr. Beal for their work on this, and the past Mr. Lindsay and Mr. Schnetzinger as well, for all the hard work they've done. I think this community forest is an excellent example of how our communities, both Fort Nelson First Nations and our municipality, can work together for economic benefit in our community. And I really applaud the work that these people have done. They are really pioneers in this. And it is so important for both of our communities or both of our people to come together to improve the economy of the Northern Rockies to benefit all of us. So I want to say thanks very much for this. I really think that the plan that Mr. Forsberg and his board have mapped out for us here is an excellent roadmap. And it provides money for the community forest so that going forward, they'll have the ability to distribute even more wood, and that will benefit our communities as well. So I am really pleased with this. I want to thank Mr. Forsberg for doing his presentation to council, and I look forward to moving forward with this in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Foster. So we have another question in the chat. Can you confirm the number of interested applicants for the fiber? I've heard in the neighborhood of 6, because that will put them in a position of conflict. Will this preclude them from competing for the resource?
Well, I know that we put out a expression of interest in, I think it was early May. There is, I believe, there are 3, maybe 4 people that are locals that are interested in fiber. And if there are more, then they should reach out, I guess, to the community forest. There's not 6 that I'm aware of. So I don't know where that number came from.
Okay. We have any other hands up? Oh, we'll move to actually, let's take the question in the chat first, and then I'll move to you, Abigail. 70 years of clear-cut logging has destroyed every traditional campsite from Nelson Forks to Canta. This issue has not even been put on the table to be dealt with. What benefits are imagined for those families that cannot use their traditional territory?
Yeah, I can just speak to this. So FNFN did engage with community members starting back in, I think it was spring of 2017. Actually, we had a number of community meetings as well as tracker one-on-one engagement sessions. And I think at that time, the nation had actually hired a specific position to help with that engagement and collect concerns and voices back then. So a lot of that information has built into where we wanted harvest and actually help form the locations of the different blocks of the CFA. And I think also when we talk about benefits, there's a lot of room for mitigation this time around, especially with FNFN being at the table, talking about, trapping times, respecting trails that are well used. I think it comes down to a lot of the water values as well, ensuring that, the erosion and respect for the streams and the crossings are being handled. We are just the CFA. We're not forestry, total, so we can only really speak and manage it on, the area that we've been designated for our tenures, but it's definitely an integral point and component of the work that we want to do. And the benefits can, we're definitely wanting to see that local jobs are provided. I think everyone in Fort Nelson appreciates having Fort Nelson people do the work. And I think we're all slightly tired of seeing the out of town works when the service providers and capacity can be provided in Fort Nelson.
Thanks, Catherine. Abigail, you can go ahead and unmute. We'll take your question next.
Okay, so I just wanted to go back and refer to the questions that I put into the chat, because they were put as one question, but they're actually 2 separate questions. So thank you very much for the information, Lawrence, regarding the number of applicants. I'm assuming those applicants have come forward in a formal application, or is it just been, perhaps what I got in the number in the neighborhood of 6 areas of interest might have been just people who had kind of extended a general interest as opposed to a formal application. And
yeah, it was a general, sorry.
Oh, okay. So you earlier in your presentation, I believe you mentioned that we had no areas of interest from anyone looking to manufacture locally. If I heard that correctly, can you confirm? And then I'll just close off with the second question, as I'm not quite sure with the peak acting as the kind of the quarterback on the management of the forest, if that will put them in a position of conflict. And if that does, would it preclude them from competing for the resource, since, resource allocation and that sort of thing would be fundamentally in their hands? So would that absent themselves from the procurement possibilities?
Well, okay, well, let me try to answer the first one. I think is that there has been the priority is to put 10,000 cubic meters in the community for local consumption, and most of that volume there has been shown interest of, and not committed today, but interest on securing some of that fiber for local processing. So that number, that's the number, 10,000 cubic meters to be processed locally. In terms of peak, we have engaged them. This is for the first year of operations. We have engaged them to provide the necessary services for planning and the oversight of our operations, harvesting operations. That is to the extent, and this is for the first year of operations period. This is what happens next year. I don't have a crystal ball in front of me, so I can't say, but I can speak for this year.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. We have another question in the chat. There are very serious questions raised from the Dene about what peak energy is and who authorized council to sign on to agreements that gives permission for any further destruction logging that is the basis for a healthy ecosystem that our people know are treated by, or pardon me, that our people know are protected by Treaty 8. And then Catherine, if you could maybe just, the following question continues with, who is Catherine Wolfenden and what authority do you have to speak for the Dene of Fort Nelson?
Yeah, for sure. So I think, Richard, some of your questions would be better if you're talking about just specifically FNFN's relationship with Peak. I think that would be best dealt with speaking directly to FNFN. So I guess the introduction for myself is during my regular day job when I'm not at the CF table is I do work for the lands department. I've worked there for going on 11 years as the land and resource coordinator. So a lot of my job entails reviewing, dealing with community members, trapper concerns, all that. So I think we're at a good point, really to bring our issues from the nation, from the community members that have been active in that engagement back, starting since 2017, to really bring those voices forward.
I think I would like to make a comment here too, if I can.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
This is the community forest. The issues that are directed in regards to anything to do with peak renewables outside what they're proposing here are that we've got them engaged in terms of the activity for CF Corp. That's not our business. We've got a tenure where that is ours. We've got nothing to say about the upcoming project. We've got nothing to do with the CAN4 peak tenure transfer, with none of that. This is strictly to do with CFA. So I just wanted to throw that out because sometimes they can get mixed up, right?
Absolutely. Okay. Sorry, we have a hand up. I'm going to move to Chief Gale. Go ahead.
Hi, I'd just like to thank the board of directors, the Northern Rockies municipality, and along with our members that are on the call today and those that couldn't join us. I mean, we've worked really hard and extensively for the past 4 years communicating back and forth, not only with the municipality, but with our membership. And so this is a collective issue that's really important, and it has been mandated by our members. And so I'm just proud of the work that we've done this far, and we'll continue to collaborate and find solutions to some of the challenges we may face in the future. And I think that's really important. And, the council and the board of directors, support the mandate of our members, and we're working diligently to, really bring back the economy for not only our people, but for our neighbors. So I just want to thank you for everything you've done this far and really appreciate it. Mussy.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief Gale. This may still kind of be mostly at Fort Nelson First Nation, but Takima left town, the Chopsticks factory ran into taxation issues and left. Polar Board proved unsustainable, while global economies were in far better shape than now. And then I'm going to extrapolate here. How is it possible that this proposal is better? And I'm going to ask that we maybe take a look at that from a community forest perspective.
Well, let me try to answer this carefully. Some of that stuff I don't think is quite accurate on why things happened the way they did in terms of the chopstick and the OSB plant. So I'll be careful with that wording. But in general, the community forest has some of the cheapest wood in the TSA. The reason that them areas were selected is they were selected with from representatives from Fort Nelson First Nations and Northern Rockies. From the technical advisors, there was a lot of work put into the areas that they wanted to. This is quite a bit smaller scale. We're talking about 200,000 cubic meters of fiber in total. We're going at it at a slower rate. We're making sure that things are going to work, and we're going to work through solutions as they come. We're going to make our best effort as we can make this as successful as possible. We've got a number of things that are going for us. I think everybody has to understand some of the optics or the things that some of the reasons that Polar Board and Takima went down. I mean, it was they just didn't wake up one morning and say they're going to shut the plants down. So there was a lot of thought in there. I mean, this is, I think, a real workable. The community forest is a real workable thing. I just don't think that I can't see a negative here at all. I just can't.
Thanks,
And
Lawrence.
I don't know if even if that's an answer. It's just more of a statement. They're not the same thing, Bev.
Okay. Richard, not to take away from the importance of your next question, but I do think that's one that I'm going to ask you to take offline because the OGC really isn't part of the community forest, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Chief Gale, I don't know if your hand is still up, or did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just would like to add that, I mean, this is the process that we're going into collaboratively to see what the opportunities are. There's still a lot of work to do on both sides, communicating with our members and our neighbors and the residents of the town of Fort Nelson. But I mean, this is what this is really all about. And we do know that we do have challenges. We have challenges with the railway. We're working really hard to find ways that we can come up with maybe grant opportunities, other funding partnerships with the provincial and federal government. This is nothing new to our members. We've been talking about this for some time. And, we're doing our analysis. We're doing our due diligence to see what the opportunity could be here. And, we have a beautiful community forest. I know that you guys are working hard to ensure that the interests of the people that live here is protected through the consultation and the work that you're doing. Also, just being forthcoming about, what's happening. I mean, I really appreciate these updates every 6 months, and you coming to the council and talking to us about these issues, and then giving us an update. And same thing you're doing with the mayor and council. So I mean, the communication lines are really open. This is something that we've worked for in the past 4 years, and we'll continue to look at what the opportunity is. So I mean, there is a lot of challenges in our way, but by coming together, we're stronger together. And I'm excited about what could come because, our families have been suffering for some time without an economy. And it's too bad, like back in the day when, oil and gas picked up and the forestry industry was going down, that we weren't looking at both, because there was a really lost opportunity of what happened and the loss of, the wood source. That could have brought an opportunity for both if we were looking at that at the same time as we were moving forward. But, there's a lot of challenges and a lot of things that we do need to look at. And the more we come together to find solutions and bring that to our members and the residents, we're going to, I think, have a good outcome here. And, it really excites me for the opportunity to have the possibility of having over maybe 700 jobs, and that's in the field and into the mill. So whatever that might look like, I mean, this is something that we'll continue to engage with our members on. And I feel like it's an opportunity for all of us really to come together as a community and see what we can do to bring our families back together, because we all know that a lot of our, spouses, have to leave town and leave their families for almost a decade now. So we want to change that and put more than bread and butter on the table and be able to look after our families together.
Thanks for the
Chief.
more. Yeah.
I'm going to take one from the chat and then we'll go to you, Mayor Foster. Can we know what the CFA has done, boots on the ground, to solicit interest in local manufacturing specifically?
Who wants to take that on? I mean, I can. I mean, the reality of it is that we have locals that are engaged, that have local contractors engaged today that have shown interest in harvesting the 40,000 cubic meters that we for this winter's program. So I'm not sure what else I can say that or what they're looking for.
Can I just add to that question?
You can, yeah.
Okay, so where I was going with that is in your presentation, you said that you had made inroads into, I'm assuming, external areas where we might be able to nurture somebody to come to the community to put in an actual wood harvesting mill. And I'm just wondering if that's continues to be done. Are we still engaging outside interests in the community forest and the establishment of a permanent jobs-based mill in Fort Nelson manufacturing? And I'm outside, I'm not referring to the pellet facility or Peak Industries. I'm just I'm wondering if there's anything else that's been done anywhere else to engage any other interest.
Yes, there is, to answer your question. That's a short answer. There are proponents out there that have shown interest. They are actively, I guess, looking at potentially doing something in Fort Nelson, and that's about as far as I can go. Say we have other irons in the fire, so to speak. So there is lots of opportunities that are coming our way. As I've said before, is that with the declining timber supply in other parts of the province, Fort Nelson is starting to look pretty good. One of the things that when we first started with the community forest was, sitting around the table scratching your head and figuring out how now you've got a tenure of mixed stands. One of the major challenges, what are you going to do with the low quality aspen and even the high for that matter? But rest assured, there is lots of interest coming our way. So that's to answer your question there.
Okay, and then we're going to move over to Mayor Foster.
So I guess what I would say about some of this is that the community forest is the owner of trees, and they can allocate and harvest trees on their land. They're not a manufacturer of forest products. So when we talk about what the community forest can do, it can give licenses to people to harvest, or it can allow people to harvest the wood that the community forest owns, and it can make financial gains off that to the benefit of Fort Nelson First Nations and to the benefit of the municipality. And it can also allocate where that wood goes. And I know Mr. Forsberg is very keen, and so am I, on making sure that we get a viable forest industry in Fort Nelson. And whether that is turning aspen into veneer, or whether it is a pellet plant, or whether it is making pallets, or any of these other proponents that have come along and said, we're looking at Fort Nelson, we'd like to buy some of that wood from the community forest. That's really what we're talking about, is the community forest can be a catalyst to get these forest companies going here in the Northern Rockies and provide jobs and provide value added and provide manufacturing. There's hurdles, as Chief Gale has mentioned things like the rail, but those are being addressed and by Peak Renewables and by Fort Nelson First Nations and the Northern Rockies to try to get some of these issues that are stumbling blocks in the way resolved. And I believe, as Lawrence does and as Chief Gale does, that there are very bright days ahead of us here in the forest business. But as Lawrence said, we need to walk before we run, and his plan before us is a good first step in that. And there will be more. I believe next year it'll be a larger harvesting plan, and I believe that before we're done here, we're going to have a lot of manufacturing in the forest business. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Foster, and we'll move to
Yep.
Terry Cavalier.
Thank you. I think I just want to put a couple of points out there for context because we're 12 years removed from the mill closures. And I just wanted to point out that being involved in the management team for Polar Board right till the last day, the discussions to pull out of Fort Nelson started when Polar Board and Takima were still making millions of dollars a month in profit. So this was a business decision to leave Fort Nelson, not a profit and loss reason to leave Fort Nelson. That eventually was the catalyst. That was the final nail in the coffin. But just as a reminder to everybody that Takima never lost a cent until the day they shut their doors. But it wasn't viable without Polar Board. And Polar Board would have been showing a profit if CAMFOR had withstood the test of time. Polar Board would have been profitable 9 months after the closure. So the challenges that Fort Nelson faces is and will always be distance to market. And our job now is to get CN Rail on board with fair rates and to make that attractive to investors. I think I'm really encouraged by, I've only been on the board for several months, but I'm really encouraged by the collaboration between, it's at an arm's length between the NRM and FNFN, but I believe for the first time in my memory, there's a really good sense of partnership, and we're listening to each other's concerns, and that's very, very encouraging.
Terry. Okay. Where do we go here, Bev?
Well, sorry, I had to unmute myself.
Okay.
So we do have a couple more questions in the chat. Richard, again, I think the one regarding the BC government, I'm going to leave for you to take offline. People can certainly read it here, though. What products are projected to be manufactured, and where is secondary processing to be done?
Okay, well, first off, the local manufacturer, I mean, whatever their capabilities are, there's Transnorth Timber, there's Seesaw, there potentially could be log cabins and log homes built. There's an array of things that could be done. A lot of that stuff, it could be some of it could be secondary manufacturing, depending on what kind of what they're doing with it. I think in terms of there's lots of things that could be done here, but I think for the most part it's going to be primary breakdown, and most of it's going to be rough, and then they'll ship it south to Reman or whatever. I think this also allows some of the local manufacturers here to set up their mill, figure out what they're going to do. There's more for the first years of operation here. It's a smaller volume. It gets them all tooled up. They can figure out what they want to do for their individual mills or their individual needs, and then they can go from there. So it's hard to quantify exactly what they're going to make there because I'm not in the manufacturing business.
Okay, thank you. So Lawrence, this question is directed to you. Am I correct in understanding that next year, 10,000 cubic meters cut will be reserved for local interest? And does that mean that the 20,000 cubic meters will also be cut and will be given specifically to outside interests? If that is the case, will that inventory be allocated to peak renewables?
Well, no, that's, well, not at this stage of the game, not from what we're looking at. 10,000, so there's a total of 40,000 cubic meters this year. We hope that number will increase and that that more volume will go to local demand. And I don't have them numbers. We're not projecting that today. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, in a perfect world, we would like to see that 200 to 17,000 cubic meters of fiber here processed locally here, utilized locally on all things. That's the goal. That's what we'd like to do. We'd like to log our tenure every year because that's on an annual basis. Next year, I think what we need to do is get through this year and then look at what is the demand going into next year. So we'll get through 2021. We'll finish our harvesting up here in the spring, and then we will have harvesting. We will work on a harvesting plan for the winter of 2022 going to 2023, and then we'll know the volumes and we'll know what that demand is going to be. It's hard to predict right now.
I'm sorry, I'm not being clear in the question. I was a typo that I put 20,000. That was the 30,000. So am I correct in understanding that there's going to be 40,000 cut this year?
Yes, there is.
And 10,000 you have said is specifically reserved for local interest?
Yes, it is.
And so the remaining 30,000
is destined for outside the TSA. That fiber is committed.
Is committed, and can we ask who that fiber is committed to?
West Fraser and CAN4.
Okay.
Okay, we good there?
Thank you.
So again, Richard, sorry to keep doing this to you because I think some of these are very valid questions, but not anything that the CFA can necessarily answer in terms of fracking. Does somebody want to tackle? We'll move on to how is the community forest implemented or made legitimate without addressing existing Treaty 8 and other inherent rights that exist and are now protected far more effectively with UNDRIP.
Catherine?
Yeah, I guess what I can say is that the FNFN was, one of the main leaders of getting the CF behind, and that's the reason why there is the partnership between FNFN and NRM, is because we wanted both communities to be at the table when it comes to factors, especially with forestry. So I think some of your questions might be better answered or directed just to FNFN directly rather than the CF, because the CF is technically an at-arms entity from both of the partners.
Thank you for that, Catherine.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm going to say the next question based on Takama. Well, Takama used timber from FNIR to number 2 to get their foot in the door in this region. The FNFN was a minority shareholder in that activity. So primary extraction, no firm requirement to do anything but harvest and ship out of the territory.
Yeah, I think Lauren spoke a bit to that, is that there definitely is, the 10,000 meters cubed for local consumption for this year. It really is a test to see how, that exactly walking before we run is a lot of the service providers. This is kind of the first time in a number of years to be able to work back in the forest industry. So we want to give a manageable amount so that people can scale up, because you can't be expected to just be able to go out there, buy equipment, all this right from zero. So this is our way to kind of slow and ease back into the things while keeping our visions and goals of the community forest in line, which is, getting that local employment back going for the people of the region.
Okay, thank you. And I just note here, Kathy Dickey's asked a question about the Zoom recordings, and they will be available for review by anyone. They will be on the Chamber of Commerce YouTube channel, and hopefully I'll have this up tomorrow, assuming I don't run into any technology glitches, which has been known to happen to me. And I see, Kathy, you have your hand up as well, so if you'd like to go ahead. No,
I have to respond to Richard Bain's latest comment about participants should be aware council has not consulted their members. So Richard has been out of this part of the air territory for quite some time. So a lot has happened in his absence. And that's why I asked if the Zoom recordings for the previous sessions could be made available to anyone that has missed them all and has not been aware of all the activity that has been going on and the amount of the times that the council has been consulting the community. Things have been happening. Things have not been standing still in your absence.
Okay, so I guess that's a question to me, and Kathy, I'll have to go back and look at what I already have on the YouTube channel. And if we recorded the previous session, we may be able to make that public. My only concern would be that whether or not I let people know that that was going to happen during the meeting, because, you know, I try to be respectful of that. Certainly this one can go up, and I think I've only hosted the 2 CFA meetings. I have hosted a few meetings for Peak Renewables as well when they wanted to share information with the community, and those are available right now on my on the Chamber's YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and just search Fort Nelson Chamber of Commerce, you'll see them there.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So, and I'm just going to note here, we're only about 8 minutes out of time or before we close. So just so people are aware. We'll move down to this question. What will the role of the CFA be going forward once Peak takes over operations with the resource? So I don't know if you'll need clarification on that one, but.
Well, I can clear that up right now. I want to make very, very clear that the community forest owns them logs. We own the community forest. We are going to manage that. Peak is not going to manage that. And that's the end of that. So I don't know how much more clear I got to be. We have engaged them. They have a lot of resources. They have a lot of horsepower to help assist us with the necessary planning and oversight to get this thing going. And this is for the first year of operations. This, I mean, it doesn't make any sense really if you think about it. Both Fort Nelson First Nations and Northern Rockies have done a lot of work for us just to go over and hand over the keys to the community forest. That's crazy. So I just want to be very clear. That is not going to happen. So let's move on.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's clarifying.
Thank you. Chief Gale, you had your hand up, but I see it went back down. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned about a comment of one of our community members, Richard, that just recently moved home. And Richard, you know, I welcome you to learn a little bit more about this process. This has been an extensive process since 2017. This isn't new. This is something that we've been mandated by our community to engage in. And yeah, I just have to say, again, thank you to the board of directors for, you know, doing your due diligence to ensure that, you know, we're going to be protecting our community forests and doing it and managing it in a way that, you know, goes for our values and honors the people that, you know, live here along with the Dene and Cree people. And we'll continue to engage and utilize the people within our staff department, our members and those on the ground to ensure that we're doing this in a way that meets our needs and for future generations. So thank you. I just had to add that. Must see.
Okay.
I wonder if I can say something too as well. Do I have to have my hand up?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, actually, just listening to it, Catherine, and listening to the discussions here, I know for a fact, like there's been employed, like working with the Lands Department alongside with Catherine. I know that there was numerous meetings that were done within the community where engagement has. And for me specifically, like I make sure that letters are sent to trapline holders, registered trapline holders, as long with all trapline holders within the Fort Nelson First Nation area. And they have an opportunity to provide their comments in regards to the CFA. So I'm probably sure that you've gotten the questions that from the members and from the non-members or the local residents of Fort Nelson, because there's a lot of engagement, right, in between. So yeah, there's a lot of work that has been done, and I really appreciate all the work that's over the years. And then I think, yeah, you guys have done a great job so far, just with an engagement part.
Thank you very much, Cynthia.
Okay, and I'm gonna just maybe, oh, sorry.
Bev, I'd like to just make
Sure.
This is from, I think from a CF Corp's position, is that a lot of this here, you know, we have to put some of our personalities to the side there. You know, I know that there has been some mistrust on behalf of, you know, with CAMFOR and Peak and that there. We've worked with, we've spent quite a bit of time with Peak over the little bit of time that we've been with them. And I mean, Brian Fair and his group, they want to do the right thing. And I know that we're hung up with this pellet plant project and everything else. I get all that, and it's really hard to trust. I know what I've been there myself, but the community forest is for the community. We have guiding principles. We have a plan. I think we see a bigger future going forward here. I don't doubt that we're going to utilize the forest that we've been given. And I just think that people just have to give us a little bit of latitude, and we're going to see some good things happen here. Okay, what else we got, Bev?
Oh. Okay, we have, with respect to Mr. Forsberg, I believe he misspoke when saying they own the trees. They have the harvesting rights, but not ownership of the trees themselves.
Who has ownership?
Yeah, that is
the community forest, the CFA.
Yeah, the CFA.
Well, no, sorry. So he's saying that the CFA, Mike, maybe you just want to jump in, have harvesting rights, but not ownership of the trees.
Well, I know, yeah, I guess
That's correct.
I guess that's correct, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
As Jeff here, I just wanted to make a comment. As two communities come together like this, you know, and hopefully we can get past COVID soon. Maybe sometime in the middle of 22, we can begin to have cultural workshops and have better understandings brought to each other from in the field, and help bridge the gap between the industrial kind of scope of things versus the cultural, just to help out bridge the gap between understanding on the land management framework and actually bringing trees to a mill.
Okay, and
Okay,
I'm sorry. I see that we're basically out of time. Richard, I'm going to encourage you to maybe connect with Catherine offline, and she can maybe provide you with some more information on how everything came about and where the community forest started and how it ended up being in place, because I think in 1 minute we're not going to be able to cover all of that. And just would like to give Lawrence, well, first thank everybody for attending, and thank the members of the CFA Corp for their participation here in providing information to the public and being so open and willing to answer questions. I would encourage you to use that email I had put in the chat to connect with them if you have more questions that haven't been answered here tonight. And I would just like to give Lawrence about 30 seconds to provide some closing remarks.
Okay, thanks, Bev. I really appreciate you doing this for CFA. I guess in closing here is that we are going to see some action here this winter. It started. I think we've got exciting times ahead. I don't think we can be all things to all people, but what we can do is we can try to do the best job as that we can, and I think we've done so thus so far. So I would think that we're going to see some things improve in both communities, and it's all because of the hard work and dedication that the board of directors and other people are trying to do. So I'd like to thank the board and Chief Gale and Mayor Foster for joining us tonight. And I want you to know that the community forest is in good hands. So
That's great.
Thank you very much for
Thanks so
everybody's-
much. And we've hit 6 o'clock, and so to be respectful of everybody's time, thank you again for attending. We really do appreciate it. And we'll try and do this again soon. And again, no such thing as a bad question. So please reach out to either Fort Nelson First Nations or to the NRRM or to the CFA Corp with your questions and get those answers. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Hi, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank
Be
you.
safe.
I-
Merry
Have a
Christmas.
great